In the key, kick out, Davenport.
A steal for Kentucky. Ahead to Reeves, left wing three, got it! Johnson weaves.
A dunk, bounces off the 80 and he slams it home.
Alright, real quick before this video starts, I recorded it in two parts. The beginning part of this episode, I'm going to be covering like current events in the NBA, but I promise there is an NBA mock draft. That's what this video is. I'm doing my very own NBA draft lottery mock simulator. So I'm basically doing my own lottery picks. I'll be picking for each team, which team I think. Basically, I'm just gonna be doing my own NBA draft. So stay tuned for that part of the video. I'll probably just put timestamps down below. So if you guys want to, you can skip forward. But time to go back to my past self so I can talk about current events and do the intro for this video. Here we go. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Student Section. This is a show all about basketball, whether it's college, NBA. Sometimes I specifically go into the SEC basketball, but just basketball in general. Okay, so where do I start? So I think I'm going to start off talking about the finals because I did not upload a video last week, which would have been covering the championship winner. And there's a couple of reasons I didn't upload. One of those just being that, so normally I record on Sunday and post on Monday. But what I was going to wait and see is because game 5 of the finals, which ended up being the final game, was on Monday. And I was like, all right, I'm going to wait till this game finishes so I can upload my video whether the Celtics are the champion or if the Mavericks have a shot at winning it at all. Celtics ended up winning. And so I got home that Monday night after work and I was exhausted. So I was like, I just don't think I'm going to upload. So I originally planned on uploading a day later than normal, but it ended up being no upload at all just because I didn't feel like it. I don't want to upload on like a Wednesday or whatever because I just felt like it was too far off from my schedule, although I definitely could have. And another reason I didn't upload is I'm not a big fan of all the discourse that's going around in the NBA right now. Mainly, it's just crazy how mainstream media, like these big sports media companies, are kind of losing credibility in the social, like just in general media scene. And what I mean by that is there's so many narratives that they are trying to force that just don't feel like these are professional NBA media analysts. Some of the narratives they're pushing out feel super unprofessional and something that they just saw some random hater on Twitter post. And I've seen a couple of people talk about it, especially Numbers on the Board. Shout out my guys. They don't know me, but I love watching them. Go watch their podcast, I'm telling you. Anyways, there's a lot of professional media analysts that are pretty much just regurgitating what people on Twitter are saying. And for those of you who don't know, Twitter media is completely different than the professional sports media space. Twitter media is where you're going to see all the troll accounts, troll comments, haters. You're going to see just a bunch of just ridiculous narrative pushing that never has really made it into the mainstream media until really this season. It's made it a couple seasons and stuff, but this season really. And what I mean by that is people saying that Jason Tatum had just a bad playoffs in general. Jason Tatum this, Jason Tatum that. Everyone hates Jason Tatum right now, even though he just won a championship. One of the things I see a lot is people talking about how corny and kind of cringe his reaction to winning is, which, sure, some of it was cringe, but this is a 26-year-old who's made it so close to the finals. He's made it to the finals the past 2 out of 3 years. They've made it to the conference finals like what feels like his entire career. They've made it to the conference finals. He's gotten so close to the actual finals and winning, but he's never gotten it. And now that he's finally gotten this chance, you can see that he's excited to win. You can see that he's enjoying this, but people are kind of... And honestly, I don't mind that people on Twitter are doing it because people on Twitter, people on TikTok, people on Instagram, they're going to do this stuff. That doesn't bother me. I'm fine with that. But whenever you see these professional media analysts taking it a step further and bringing it to their platform, that's whenever it's kind of like, all right, dude, you're kind of... Like, seriously, you're hating on Jason Tatum that much that you're just trying to find anything and everything you can to talk bad about him. And yes, objectively, Jaylen Brown did have a better playoffs. That's why he got Finals MVP, because he was objectively better. But people are making it seem like Jason Tatum was out there just running cardio and doing nothing else. Even though he wasn't scoring the way you'd like him to, he's still making the right passes. He's still playmaking. He's still defending. He's still doing everything else on the court except for shooting the ball at a high efficiency. That's pretty much his only downside this playoffs. So I just need to get that out of the way. Another thing with the whole media narrative pushing, not even narrative pushing, it's just media just kind of losing credibility, is I saw it a lot this playoffs. I think I've seen it before, but another thing that's kind of popped up mainly in this playoffs is side switching. Like, they have media, these personalities in the media, they have no shame in just switching sides whenever it's convenient to them, whenever they can make more clicks and money off of it. And what I mean by that, a really prime example is the way they root for teams. So it started off mainly with the Timberwolves Mavericks series. So the Mavericks go up 3-0, right? People are loving Luka Doncic. Before, like the first 2 rounds in the playoffs was just everyone was covering Anthony Edwards. And now that he's losing, they completely flip over to Luka and just start doing that. But the thing that kind of confuses me the most is that once the Mavericks are up 3-0, and then the Timberwolves come back and win Game 5. Never have we ever seen a team come back from 3-0 in the playoffs. We've seen 3-1 like 10 times maybe. We've never seen a 3-0 comeback. So the Timberwolves come back and win one game. They win Game 4, so now they're down 3-1. And the media immediately switches from just praising and covering the Mavericks to the Timberwolves are about to make a 3-0 comeback. They're going to do it. They beat them this one game. They won one game. They can prove they can do it. They're going to win the next 3 in a row. No, that's not how it happens. It is so hard to beat a team 2 times in a row, let alone 3 times. So whenever I see a team go up 3-0, I know that team is most likely better than the other team. And with that being said, it's nearly impossible to beat a team 4 times in a row. No games in between. You are playing them 4 times in a row because the other team eventually is going to fix their scheme and fix it and win another game. That's just how it is. So whenever I see that happen, it happened in the finals too. Celtics go up 3-0, and everybody's just looking for an excuse to drag the Celtics down because they're the best team. Another problem with the media is they're talking about how the Celtics had an easy path. I covered that in my last episode, so if you want to see more about my opinion, go to my last episode. I'm not covering that again. But Celtics go up 3-0, and the second the Mavericks win Game 4, which they did win by 30 or 40 points, the media immediately flips to saying, okay, the Mavericks are going to win it all now. They won one game finally. They figured out the Celtics. I saw that a lot. People saying they figured out the Celtics. No, it took the Mavericks to pretty much play their best game of the playoffs and the Celtics to play their worst game of the playoffs for the Mavericks to get a win. And I saw people constantly saying that the Mavericks figured out the Celtics. No, they didn't. It was the Celtics' worst game and the Mavericks' best game happened at the same time, and that's how the Mavericks won. And I know I had picked originally the Mavericks to win in 7, but I addressed this in my last episode too. That was the fan in me. I should have just thought more critically. The Celtics are obviously going to win. I should probably acknowledge and differentiate that I want the Mavericks to win, but I think the Celtics are going to win. I just really was trying to brainwash myself into believing that would happen. And yes, I was wrong. I'm not going to just sit here and make excuses. I was wrong. That was a bad pick, obviously. But I just don't like the way the media is right now. It's kind of bothering me. With all that rant out of the way, I do want to cover news that just dropped literally 10 minutes ago. That's why I'm recording this right now. Is that the Lakers hired JJ Reddick. Now I have a couple of things. I've already kind of mentioned my thoughts on this, but I'm just going to reroute them, just kind of go over them again because this is officially happening. I don't like this hiring. I never liked whenever there was speculation with this stuff for multiple reasons. First off, JJ Reddick has never had a coaching job whatsoever in the NBA. Yes, he played in the NBA for 15 years. Yes, we see on his podcast and stuff, he has incredible ball knowledge. He knows the game. But I don't know if he knows coaching, right? And by no means am I doubting him. I love JJ Reddick. I'd love to see him come out here and just be an amazing coach for the Lakers, but the main reason I don't want him to get this job is because I want him to succeed. I'm not saying this because I hate him. I hate the Lakers. I want him to succeed. I love JJ Reddick. He's one of the best media analysts in the entire game right now. Best just ex-players in the media right now. I love JJ Reddick. So don't take this as me hating on him. But the fact that he has not even head coaching, but assistant coaching, developmental coaching, scouting, he has no sort of coaching experience in the league. So to throw him in this just pit of fire that is the Lakers, that have just been constantly firing off coaches left and right like it's just a 6-shooter revolver. They're just shooting them, firing them. It's getting ridiculous at this point. I would hate to see JJ Reddick come in for his first job under LeBron James, who is also another player who constantly just gets coaches fired. He's known for pretty much being the coach of the team, so the other coach, the actual head coach, there's not much of a spot for him. We know this happens all the time. I don't like it. And also to mention the relationship between JJ and LeBron James, mainly because of their podcast. I don't really know what's going to happen with their podcast, if they're still allowed to have it, if they're going to do it. I don't know. But I don't like the idea of having basically a guy who's the same age and friends with everyone on this team. I don't know how well his voice is going to carry in the locker room, especially whenever you have a guy like LeBron on your team. And by no means am I saying I'm just saying, oh, he's going to fail. I know he's going to fail. I'm just saying I'm scared for his career, because if he has a bad start here and he doesn't make it past 2 or 3 years with this team, what happens next? Obviously, media is always going to be an availability for him, but I'd love to see JJ Reddick as a successful coach. So I'm just a little hesitant and weary on this hiring. I'm not the biggest fan of it. But yeah, that is that I wanted to mention. I don't think I missed any topics or points on it. I just kind of just want to talk about how I don't like that hiring. I would have loved to see Mike Budenholzer, because he is a veteran NBA coach. Even though people with the Bucks didn't really like him, he did win a championship with the Bucks. He did go out there. He had a relatively good scheme, and he stuck to that scheme. He didn't change it up or anything. And I think his scheme would have fit very well with the Lakers, the way they play, the personnel they have. But obviously that fell through. I don't know what kind of coaching staff JJ Reddick is going to bring. I'm scared. I want him to succeed. That's why I don't want him here. And I think I mentioned I would have loved to see him go to the Cavs, maybe to the Hornets. I don't know if the Wizards are looking for a new coach, but that would have been a good spot for him. Just kind of a younger team that's still kind of growing. That way he can grow with the team. Anyways, the next shot of me, I'm going to be in a completely different outfit. That's because I'm recording this episode 2 different days. I just wanted to record this bit really quick because of the JJ Reddick news and just kind of addressing why I didn't upload last week. And so the next bit is going to be about NBA draft content. Finally, I've been just saying at the end of pretty much every video, I'm going to be getting NBA content. I'm going to be putting out draft content. I put up one video, and this video is officially going to be my first real look at the draft. I'm going to be doing a mock draft of the lottery, and then mentioning just a couple of underrated players that I think could really make an impact on some teams that are going to be probably end up drafted later in the draft or just completely undrafted. So stay tuned for that, and let's get into it. All right, so now that is over, unfortunately, I have one more piece of news to cover, and that is the Alex Caruso, Josh Giddey trade. I think it's a pretty neutral trade. I think it is clearly more in favor of the Thunder winning the trade. I think the Thunder did end up winning the trade, but I think it's more so like a 61% for them and 39% for the Bulls. And the main reason I say that for the Bulls is Josh Giddey, he is a good player, but he's such a situational type of player in terms of he's like the best sideline out of bounds inbounder of all time, pretty much. Very high IQ, very good with passing the ball. His dribble isn't very like fancy or anything, but he does have a very tight ball handle. He doesn't move very fast, but you look at Josh Giddey, his weaknesses is basically playing basketball, like any physical part of basketball. He can't shoot. He's not fast, not athletic, can't jump very high. He can't defend, and he's not the best at finishing around the rim. He's pretty much just strictly a playmaker, which is a weird archetype. You don't really see that often, but I do think he is helpful for a young team like that. And it kind of shows, I think it is a good thing if you're a Bulls fan, because it shows they might be moving towards a direction of a rebuild. I know I kind of said I was fine with them trying to contend as long as they just rebuild the team, restructure, but I also am fine with them rebuilding. I would love to see them rebuild, and I'm sure Chicago fans are the exact same way. They want to see this Bulls team rebuild because they've pretty much been mid throughout the entire 2010s and so far the 2020s. So this is probably a good little refresher. Hopefully the team actually rebuilds correctly. And just another problem I have, if they are going towards this rebuild, why did they not get any picks back for Alex Caruso? I think just with this trade being just literally player for player, no picks, no extra salary filling players, none of that. Those trades don't happen very often. I just think in terms of player for player, Alex Caruso is more valuable to both teams than Josh Giddey is, which is kind of why I'm saying this. I think the Bulls should have at least gotten. They couldn't have even gotten 1 second-round pick from the Thunder, who have 1 million first-round picks and 40 million second-round picks. They couldn't get 1 second-round pick from this team. I mean, I would have loved to see them get a first-round pick at least, like especially with Alex Caruso. I don't think Josh Giddey has that much value to where he's not worth at least 1 pick. I think realistically they could have at least tried to pry 1 first-round pick out of them, let alone 1 second-round pick. I don't know how they didn't get any of that, but I don't know. Maybe there's something. Maybe the Chicago Bulls head ownership has something else planned that they're trying to orchestrate. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But just my general consensus thoughts, I do believe that the Bulls lost this trade and OKC won. I think Alex Caruso fits perfectly in terms of like just looking at what the OKC has. They have no shortage of perimeter defenders now. They have Shea, they have J-Dub, they have Case and Wallace, who I think is super underrated. Case and Wallace, now they have Alex Caruso. They have no shortage of... I don't know what they're going to do with Kenrich Williams, but he's another perimeter defender who can guard players. This team with Alex Caruso is lethal. They really are lethal. He was one of those missing pieces that they needed, just that veteran just presence. Alex Caruso by no means is any sort of playmaker, but he just has that veteran presence. You could see it whenever he played with Chicago, whenever his plus minuses and all that stuff. Really good. In Chicago, they broke up the demon defensive backcourt with Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso. Obviously, we don't know what's going on with Lonzo Ball, so that's not even really a thing to talk about. But now that is out of the way, I can finally do my draft content that I've been promising, and I know this video is coming out the day before the draft, so I really only did 2 draft videos before the draft. I'm going to be reviewing the draft. I'm going to make a video on which I'm going to be grading each pick. I'm going to be doing summer league content, so I'm still have more draft content on the way, just no prospect really content. So let's get right into this mock draft. Okay, sorry for all that. I just realized my microphone is really far away from my face. Hopefully I fixed that audio in editing. It might sound a little echoey just because it was super far away. I fixed it. All right, so here is the mock draft simulator. This big board it's using right here, part of my internet, we've had some bad internet with all the storms I mentioned a couple of videos ago. So things might load a little slow. I guess just ignore them. I don't know what else to tell you. Hopefully in my head I can find a spot to put it that's not really blocking anything. I love Fanspo. Shout out Fanspo. This is my favorite like mock draft simulator. They show salary cap, current roster. They show what the team needs. They say severe. You can trade picks. It shows you you can pick different draft boards. Like I said, I have ESPN's. They also have a consensus draft board. They show you who the next pick is. They have a lot of stuff they show you on the clock. So where do I go with this first pick? I think it is very obvious. I think the player, in my opinion, with just the overall highest ceiling while also having a decent floor is Alex Sarr. He appears to be the consensus #1 pick. I've seen a few other people take Zachary Reese-Shea, a few other people. I've even seen Reach Shepard up there. I don't think that is the right pick whatsoever. But I mean, you look at this Hawks team. They have Clint Capella, but he only has 1 more year left on his deal, and he's probably not going to want to stay with this team because they're just not winning. I don't know if he's the best fit. He plays well off of Trae Young, but I think other teams are probably going to want to pay him a little bit more than what the Atlanta Hawks have. They have Onyeka Okongwu, which I love him so much. I think he is such an amazing player, but it's going to suck that he's going to continue to be stuck in this backup role. Unless they find a way to trade away Clint Capella and they can let Onyeka start and maybe bring Alex off the bench, but... just in general, I really think this team could use Alexander Sarr, his just overall talent. I know a lot of mock drafts have him compared to, draft profiles have him compared to Jaren Jackson Jr., and I definitely see it. The wonky jump shot, super athletic, amazing help defender, can finish very well at the rim. I love this pick for them. So Alexander Sarr is the very first pick for the Atlanta Hawks. So that moves us on to the Washington Wizards. So... I don't know what they're going to do with their players, and I do want to mention real quick, I'm not going to be trading any picks. I'm just doing what picks they have now. I will maybe mention maybe this team should trade their pick here and there, but I'm not going to actually trade any picks. I'm picking with teams, whatever they have, as of today, which is Sunday, the 24th of June. But this right here is the biggest decision, I think, in the entire draft. Who does Washington pick? Now, I know I just said Alexander Sarr's consensus number 1 overall pick, and in all of those draft boards, I see Zachary Risacher being the 2nd overall consensus pick. I don't like that pick. I think of Zachary Risacher very similar to like a Michael Porter Jr. type player, and I could even see him being similar to Jabari Smith Jr. out of Auburn over at Houston, because they're both, I mean, I think Jabari Smith Jr. is an overall better defender because he can defend the perimeter, and I think he's just a better shot blocker in general. But Zachary Risacher does have the ability to defend the rim, more so on help defense. He's not going to guard a center one-on-one. He's not going to guard the perimeter very well, not very fast with his feet. But he can play a little bit of help defense, a little bit of that roamer role, the free safety role. But his main skill is going to be his ability to shoot the ball, mainly off the catch. So his skill set is so limited, I don't think his ceiling is as high as some of the other guys in this draft. And with the Washington Wizards being as bad as they are and not really having a solidified lineup, at least to rebuild with in the future, they don't have a single cornerstone they're rebuilding with. I think they have to shoot super high and go with a high potential pick, because normally they pick guys that are more so projects. You look at Corey Kispert, you look at Bilal Coulibaly, they pick guys that they want to develop. You look at Otto Porter Jr., they normally pick guys that are these wings that aren't very skilled but are very athletic, that they can develop that skill. I think they need to stop doing that. And with that being said, the first shock of this mock draft, I'm going to take Mattis Buzelis. So real quick, every picture and like looking at his name and stuff, before I saw interviews of this dude, I thought he genuinely was like, I thought he was as European as it gets. He looks European. His name looks European. I thought he'd have a heavy accent, could barely speak English. No. Once I started watching interviews of him, this dude is American. He is American as it gets. I see all the interviews. He seems like a cool dude. But that's not the Wizards aren't drafting cool dudes. They're drafting good players. And the reason I picked Mattis Buzelis is because his ceiling is so high. The only downside I really saw, obviously he didn't shoot the ball very efficiently with G League Ignite, but no one shoots good with G League Ignite, which is kind of weird. But he has every other skill in the court. He can handle the ball, not super crazy. I kind of think of it, he has a better handle than Giannis, but he's obviously not going to be point guard. I think of it kind of like a LeBron level handle where he's not super fancy with it, but he can get open space. He gets to the rim very well. He's super athletic. He's super quick. He can finish above the rim, has some good dunks, posters. He's a very athletic around the rim finisher. And he has a pretty decent post-up game, and his mid-range is very just polished, in my opinion, for a guy his age coming out of G League. And I don't think the shooting is going to be a problem because he's historically been a good shooter all throughout high school at Sunrise Academy. He has been a good shooter. Just his 1 year in G League Ignite was not very efficient. I don't know if it shows his shooting splits. I don't think it does. But I think this is the perfect pick for the Wizards. He has a decent floor, but he has I think in my opinion, Mattis Buzelis has the second highest ceiling in this entire draft class. And a lot of people don't see that, but I do. So moving on, we have the Houston Rockets. You look at their team needs, there's a lot of needs. I don't think point guard is really that high. Just because they have guys like Amen Thompson, who I don't think is listed as a point guard. Let me check. No, they have him at a small forward, but he plays point guard whenever he's on the court. They have him, Fred VanVleet. I don't know how long Fred is going to stay with this team. I know he still has 2 years left on his deal, but I don't see him being the type of guy to come back. I think the only reason he's on this team is because of the money they were paying him. But you know, we'll wait and see on him. But so basically what I'm trying to say is this team has a lot of, I think they have their cornerstones, or they're in that process of moving out of the rebuild and starting to develop this team and start contending and competing. Cornerstones they have being Jalen Green, Jabari Smith. I think Amen Thompson is going to be a cornerstone. They have a few other guys like Jay Tate. He doesn't really play too much, but Alperen Sengun, he is another cornerstone. I think this team is going to try and build around. Tari Eason is a very good role player. I don't know what's going on with Cam Whitmore because he is a very high ceiling player as well. I don't know if this team is going to be able to develop him properly. We don't know. So basically, what does this team need? They have plenty of ball handlers. They have plenty of stars. This team needs elite quality role players. So with that being said, I'm going to pick a role player. So don't expect Zachary Risacher. He's going to keep falling. Don't expect Dalton Connect. He's going to keep falling. So what does this team need? I think the best role player that can fit this team They need a guy who can play off the ball because they have Alperen Sengun and they have Jalen Green. They need a guy who can play off the ball, catch and shoot, and a guy that can help defend because everybody needs that. And I think you guys see where I'm going with this now. Reed Shepherd. That is going to be my pick for the the Houston Rockets. And by no means is Reed Shepherd, in my opinion, he's not even a top 5 quality player. I don't think he's a top 10 draft pick player. But a team like Rockets are in such a unique situation where they need role players. They don't need high ceiling. They don't need stars. They need role players to complement the cornerstones they already have, which is why they pick a guy like Reed Shepherd at number 3, because in my opinion, he's one of the most polished role players so far in this draft. He shot I think he might have shot 50% from 3. I know it shows he shot 53% overall in the field goal, but I'm pretty sure he shot nearly 50% from 3. He's not the best defender. He is a good defender. He's definitely above average, but he's not like Drew Holiday, Derek White, not locking dudes up like crazy. My comp for him, for people who don't watch Reed Shepherd, is like a Dante DiVincenzo, Pat Connaughton, Grayson Allen, these super high efficiency and high quality three-point shooters that can also defend on the perimeter. I think that he fits that perfectly. He's also sneaky athletic, and I say that because he's white. Any white player who can dunk the ball, they have sneaky athleticism. This is how it is. But I think he's the perfect pick for the Rockets. And then moving on to the San Antonio Spurs. This is where it gets weird. You look at their needs. They pretty much need everything except for a small forward, and I don't think they need a center, although I will get there in a second. So pretty much the only cornerstone I think this team has, I like Devin Vassell. I'd like to see him stay with this team, and obviously Vic. Those are the two guys that I think are pretty much solidified to stay on this team and to be a part of this rebuild. So you could go a couple different directions here. I think every guy on the board is a good fit, except for Zachary Risache. I don't think they need another guy like that, although he would be nice to play along Vic. He's a guy who can catch and shoot, play off of him very well. There is a lot of overlapping talent there. And, I mean, they're both French. You might want to go for that French connection. We know the Spurs love their international players historically. I just don't think he's the best fit. Now, a guy like Donovan Clingan, you can play him at center, and that way you can allow Vic to play the small forward or the power forward, and he doesn't have to guard super strong, super big guys. But they already have a guy like that with Zach Collins, who's here for a couple more years on his contract. But the thing is, because Donovan Clingan doesn't have the highest ceiling, he's another floor guy. I don't think the Spurs need to be drafting floor guys because there are plenty centers you can go out and sign that can just be big bodies that can guard big guys so Vic doesn't have to. I don't think you need to waste a pick on a Donovan Clingan type guy there are plenty of guys in the NBA who have that skill set. Which then moves on to Stephon Castle. I think his inability to shoot the ball is going to just not be well with Vic. I think Vic needs a guy who can shoot the ball and be a stronger ball handler than what Stephon Castle is. The main 3 guys I like for this team is Dalton Knecht, Rob Dillingham, and Nikola Topic. Dalton Knecht is the most polished scorer. I think out of the rest of the guys on this draft, I think Dalton Knecht is the most polished scorer. He can score all 3 levels. The only thing he really lacks is the ability to play, make, and defend. Which with a guy like Devin Vassell, you don't really need a playmaker. I mean, it'd be nice to have a secondary playmaker, but I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But Rob Dillingham, very fun, very flashy, very crafty scorer. I know a lot of people in the just like a lot of fans. This is their favorite player. This is the most popular guy of the draft. He has the most fun play style. He plays a lot like a Jamal Crawford or just like a 6-man type role. I just don't see it for being this high of a pick. I don't think the Spurs should pick him up at 4 because he does have a high ceiling, but there is sorry, pardon my voice is kind of going, but he could be a bust. He has very high bust potential just because of his play style. And by no means am I saying he's going to be a bust. I'm just saying. And then you have Nikola Topic. He is a very solidified playmaker. He is pretty much strictly playmaker. He is a bit of a taller point guard at 6'5", not super tall. I mean, at this point in the league, the way the NBA is now, he's pretty much a little bit above average height for a point guard. I'm not the biggest fan of his game just because I think his game is super limited. But I think his fit with Vic is just too perfect. He is he is he's a primary ball handler, but he doesn't need the ball. He's very good at creating shots for other people. Very willing passer, very creative passer. Can finish at the rim. Not the best. He can shoot the ball, but he's not the best overall efficiency. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with Nikola Topic for this 4th overall pick. And keep in mind, I'm taking these picks as if I am the general manager, the front office for this teams. So I'm not picking strictly based off of skill. I'm picking off of team fit and skill, obviously. So yeah, I think Nikola Topic is going to go with the Spurs at number 4. Just like Reed Shepherd, I don't think he's a number 4 overall pick, quality player. I think he's more so around that 8 to like late lottery pick, even falling down to the 20s in normal drafts. But I think he fits Vic so well. I don't think he's another overseas player. I don't think the Spurs are going to pass up on this pick. So that brings us to the Pistons. Man, this team is really, really ugly. So obviously they have Cade Cunningham running the point, but it wouldn't hurt to have a backup point guard that's something solidified. They don't really have a solidified shooting guard. Yeah, I mean, they have Jaden Ivey. I don't think he's been good, but I would love to see him just continue developing that 6-man role. I think they have some decent centers. I mean, they have Jalen Duren. They have a couple of other guys. Marcus Sasser running that point guard. I think he's the guy they want to kind of keep on to. So with that being said, I don't think they need a point guard. I personally don't believe they need a center, but I could see them picking up Donovan Clingan. I know it says they're severe for a point guard and a power forward. Like I said, I don't think they need a point guard. I think they have their guys for now at least. It says they have a mild small forward rotation. They have a high need for shooting guards as well. But they have Evan Fournier, who once again is probably not going to be here much longer. And small forwards, I mean, they have Asar Thompson, who is an amazing player. They have Fontecchio. I don't know if he's going to stay. This team is so weird. I think they're another team that kind of just has to go for fit for whatever cornerstones they have, being Asar Thompson and Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren, which is where Zachary Risache gets picked up because he fits so well. Like I said earlier, he plays off the ball. His ability to catch and shoot and play help defense. He complements Jalen Duren. He complements Cade Cunningham. And this team desperately needs shooting, and this guy can provide that, especially at the height he is. I think he just fits perfectly with this team. And so that brings us to the Charlotte Hornets. This is a tough one. So as you guys know, I'm an Arkansas fan. I am super, super high on Nick Smith Jr. He didn't play much last season, but I see the potential. I think he's going to be a super good player in this league. Obviously not like superstar quality, but so they don't really have a need for a shooting guard. They have Brandon Miller, who did play. I would say he played that shooting guard role for the most part. They have Trey Mann, who can also play that point guard / shooting guard, combo guard kind of role. Same with Nick Smith, Seth Curry. They have plenty of shooting guards. They have plenty of small forwards. And you can see they need a point guard. They need a backup point guard. If I'm the head of this team, I'm not a big fan of Melo just because of his health injuries. But they severely need a center. And looking through here, I'm trying to see if there's any sort of kind of unicorn type centers. I mean, there's Zach Edey, but I wouldn't really put him up in that caliber. So seeing that they just need a center, I think they have plenty of young, skillful guards that they can develop alongside with those small forwards. They have Miles Bridges. I don't know how much longer he's going to be with this team. He's been with the team for a little bit, but he's going into unrestricted free agency this year, it looks like. So I don't know if he's going to re-sign with this team. I don't know what his intentions are or whatever. They have Grant Williams, not the best player. Cody Williams, another guy they've been developing. So their small forwards aren't super strong. Their power forwards aren't super strong either, but they need a center. They have Nick Richards, who hasn't been bad for them. Mark Williams hasn't been bad for them. He's on a team option. 2 years left with him. Nick Richards also has 2 years. But, I don't think they should pick Dalton Knecht because he does overlap a lot with what Brandon Miller does. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm trying to decide between Donovan Clingan and Stephon Castle. I think this team has plenty of shooting to have a Stephon Castle type guy come off the bench, be a good defender. And I don't know, because Donovan Clingan could fit this team very well. Like, he's a sophomore. He can develop with these guys. He's still pretty young. And like I said, I mean, Stephon Castle's a freshman. Rob Dillingham's a freshman. But I think they have plenty of guard players. I don't think they need to just keep getting more and more guards. Ron Holland's another option with them. Cody Williams another option. It's either Stephon Castle or Donovan Clingan because they don't have any defenders. So they don't have any perimeter defenders, and they don't have any. I'm going with Stephon Castle. They don't have any perimeter defenders. I talked myself into it, but I wouldn't be mad at all at a Donovan Clingan pick for this team. I am going with Stephon Castle. His ability to defend and play make, I think he fits his team perfectly. Now, another difficult team for me. The Trailblazers with the 7th overall pick. It says they have a mild small forward rotation. I don't think they do. I really don't believe it. I mean, they have Chris Murray, who's a guy they can develop. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, not very high on him. He's going into unrestricted free agency anyways. Their small forward core is not very strong. They have Jabari Walker, not the best player, but he is a young player. Once again, Chris Murray is decent. He's a role player type of guy. I think you guys might see where I'm going with this. So I don't believe it says they have a mild need for small forwards and power forwards. They have a high need for centers. They have DeAndre Ayton, who's a young guy who I could see staying there. They have Jeremy Grant, who's on a 4-year contract. I don't know if they're going to look at trading him or not, but basically what I'm getting at is Dalton Knecht, in my opinion, is the pick for this team. He is the most polished scorer, like I said, in this draft. At least that's on the board right now since like the 3rd overall pick. He's the most polished scorer right now. You know what you're getting out of him. He can score all 3 levels. He can make his own shot. If anything, he might be the most polished scorer in this entire draft. I'm trying to think of players that might be higher. I could see Mattis, but I think just Dalton Knecht with his 3-ball being higher than what Mattis had. He might genuinely be the most developed scorer, most polished scorer, which is why I see him going with this this Trailblazers team. I mean, you look at he led the SEC in points per game. I believe he was in running for Player of the Year. I know he made SEC Player of the Year, but I know he was in running for National Player of the Year. He made I'm pretty sure he made all NCAA first team. I know he made SEC first team. I'm an SEC guy. I would know. Even though he is a senior, he's only 22 years old, so he's pretty much the same age as a lot of the guys on this team. So I think the Trailblazers just go with talent at this point. I don't think they care too much about his age, which brings us right back to the Spurs. This is a tough one because I know a lot of people want them to also pick Rob Dillingham, which I am not. I'm not against at all, actually. They have Devin Vassell, who is a little bit of a bigger shooting guard. I think Rob Dillingham could come in and play that secondary position. Now, this is, like I said, I don't think they should have picked Donovan Clingan earlier in the draft. If he falls to them, I don't think they pass on him. I would love to see Rob Dillingham go here, but I don't know. I just don't see them passing on him. It'd be really hard to convince me that they would pass on him. But then again, Rob Dillingham is another guy that I don't see them passing on, really. So once again, it comes down to these two. Oh, this is a tough one. I think I'm gonna, cause like I haven't done any planning before this. I'm just kind of just winging it. I think they go with Rob Dillingham. I think they do, cause like I said, there's plenty of guys you can get that are like Donovan Clingan. But now that we're here, if somehow he falls this far, I'm not even gonna talk about anybody else. I think the Grizzlies pick him. Now. I did mention that there are going to be some teams that might try and trade some picks. This is a team I would expect to trade their pick. But just assuming that they don't trade their pick, I would assume they would take Donovan Clingan. I think he fits this team almost perfectly. He does a lot of what Steven Adams did. But I think his offensive game is a little more polished. He is bigger, not stronger, but he is bigger than Steven Adams. He's taller. I don't know if he weighs more. I don't know how much Steven Adams weighs. But this is a big body, and I could definitely see him playing with the Memphis Grizzlies. His ability to play the pick and roll with John Morant, catch lobs, he fits this team perfectly. If he falls here, I don't think they trade this pick away. So with that being said, we are now with the Jazz. The Jazz is a really weird team for me because they have tons of wings. They have tons of wings. So I don't think they spend this pick on a wing or a scoring guard. I think they try and go out and get guys that can play make or maybe just complement what they have. They don't need any. You see it. They need point guards and centers. So, like, I love Jacoby Walter, but I just don't think... I think his ability... It's hard to say. There's so many guys I could see them taking. There's a lot of guys I could see them going with right now. Let me see his scouting profile. Ooh. I'm just trying to see his numbers. 8.7 rebounds. I know he's a good rebounder. I didn't know he was that good at 6'2". Yeah, this is the guy they go with. They go with Devin Carter. I'm not going to lie. He's one of the few players this high up in the lottery that I'm not super familiar with. I just haven't gotten around to watching film of him. But I've seen a few highlights. I think this is a guy that I would love to watch at his height. He scores. Obviously, you can see the numbers here. He rebounds crazy for his height. He's pretty efficient at the point guard role. I think this is the guy they definitely go with. I think they go with Devin Carter, no doubt. And now we are on the Bulls. Now, this is a really hard one to do because I don't know what direction they're going in. But since I am the GM of all these teams, like I said before, I'm making the decisions around here. This team is rebuilding. Zach LaVine is not going to be on this team. DeMar is not going to be on this team. Vucevic is going to be gone. So right now we're stuck with Lonzo Ball, who's injured, hasn't played in 4 years. They have Kobe White. Alex Caruso is not on the team anymore. They have Io. They have plenty of guards. They have Andre Drummond, who's probably not coming back this year. I'd be super surprised. They pretty much need big players. So here's the thing. Cody Williams, if this was any other team, would probably end up being my pick. Or Ron Holland, either one of those two, but they're both such project players. And historically, the Bulls do not develop project players. You look at Lauri Markkanen, you look at Patrick Williams. I can go through here. You look at Dalen Terry. These wings that are super athletic, super fast, not very skilled coming out of college. They're not the type of guys that can develop here. Like I said, they have too many guards. I don't want them taking Jacoby Walter or Jared McCain. If I'm them, I'm not even going to try and pronounce this dude's name. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. I've tried watching videos and seeing how people pronounce it. I cannot pronounce this dude's name whatsoever. But I see the Giannis. I always see the Giannis comparisons whenever I look at this dude's draft profile. Once again, another project, though. I hate that the Bulls only have to pick between guards and project players, which a lot of this draft is project players. That's another thing. People talk about how weak this draft is. It's not weak. It's just a bunch of really solid role players / project players. I don't know. I really don't know. Just because this team is just not good with project players. Kyle Filipowski is he's another solidified type player. I could see him going here. You know what? I'm going into this under the assumption that this is the Bulls, right? They cannot develop talent. We're going Kyle Filipowski. He's one of the guys who are not going to really have to worry too much about being developed. And so that moves us up to the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is another team I would expect to trade away their pick. And with the Bulls, I would expect them actually to trade up. I don't know how far they would trade up. This is another team I would expect to trade their pick. It's so hard to draft someone for this team because they have so many young guys. They are obviously missing a center. My friend, who is a big OKC fan, he really, really likes either Zach Edey or Donovan Clingan, just because they do need a big body. But I think Zach Edey's the pick if they don't trade it, just because they have Chet, but they need a big defender that can play backup center. I love Jalen Williams out of Arkansas. He's 6'9". He's just not the biggest. I would hate to see him lose his role on this team, but I think Zach Edey is the pick for OKC. And that brings us to the Sacramento Kings. You see they need a power forward. Who else is... I think that would probably where they take the name I cannot pronounce. Should I keep going? I don't know if it'll let me keep going because I made it to where it's only going to let me do the lottery. I probably should have done top 20. I hope it lets me keep going. But they do take the name I cannot pronounce. He's another project, so I don't expect him to get too much playing time on this contending Kings team. But I like this pick with the Kings. And then we are back with the Trailblazers. I expect them to keep this pick. They had already drafted, who did I pick with them? Dalton Connect. So they have a solidified player, a solidified polished scorer. So I think they're either going to take Ron Holland or Cody Williams. And this is me being the general manager. I like Cody Williams' game a little bit more than Ron Holland. So I'm just going to take Cody Williams. No other, they are very similar players. I just think Cody Williams, he's one of those guys who does everything. I think Ron Holland's lack of shooting, and once again, Cody Williams isn't the best shooter either, but I do think he has higher potential to become a better shooter. And he's a freshman, he's a young guy, and I think Ron Holland is also the same age, so that doesn't really matter. So yeah, it's not going to let me go past the lottery, but some guys I ended up missing on. Jacoby Walter, amazing two-way player. I think any team would love to have him. Jared McCain, super good shooter, elite shooter out of college. His ability to play the point guard, not the greatest playmaker. He is also very short, but he shows a lot of heart. Good shooter. I love his game. I could see him being very pivotal to. I could see a lot of these teams also picking him as well. Who else did I pass on? Ron Holland, he's like the biggest faller in this draft. I just don't see him being picked over any of these guys. Looking at some of these picks, I think Kyle Filipowski, I think he would not realistically be here. But like I said, I'm looking at this in terms of the Bulls. They can't develop. He's the guy they pick. But I could also see them picking up a guy like Ron Holland, who's a project. Once again, they love their projects. I could see them taking Cody Williams. They just don't develop them very well. So yeah, this is my lottery big board. I was going to try and talk about some underrated players. I just don't think I'm going to have time. How long have I been recording? Let me check. I might talk about them. I've only been recording this for 30 minutes. The intro's probably 20, so I'm probably at like close to an hour. Okay, I'm just going to mention two players that are my absolute favorite players in this draft. First one being Eric Gaines out of UAB. He's kind of been on my radar for a couple years now. I just love he's super athletic, super just exciting to watch. Not the most skilled shooter, not the most controlled player. He reminds me a lot of like a lot like a Jalen Duren. Not Jalen Duren. Oh, that's the wrong player. What is his name? Shooting guard for the Pistons. I've been recording for too long. I can't think of anything now. Jaden Ivey. He reminds me a lot of like a Jaden Ivey. Obviously not as high profile, but that same sort of archetype. Super fast, athletic, kind of too fast for themselves sometimes. And another guy. I'm saying this right now, so that way whenever it happens, hopefully I might even make a short out of this. Antonio Reeves is the most underrated player in the 2024 draft, and here is why. He is one of the best three-point shooters in the entire SEC. He shot close to 45%. I might have the exact stats up on the screen. And he's the type of guy who's not just catching it off the dribble, or not just catching it off the catch. He's not a catch-and-shoot guy strictly. He can make his own shot in the three-point perimeter. He's super polished on the offensive end. I don't know how he's going under the radar. I've seen him mocked anywhere from 50 to 30. He, in my opinion, is a top 20 tier player. And nobody knows him. He's the most underrated player. And I'm clipping this, so whenever he becomes super good in a couple years, I'm going to repost this and brag in everybody's face. And I'm going to say I told you so. That's my rant about Antonio Reeves. I'm going to talk about him so much. I can't wait to see him in Summer League. Hopefully he gets drafted, at least picked up by a team. I love his game so much. And if you guys want to look at, I'm telling you, look at Antonio Reeves' highlights. Super polished scorer, super polished, he can play make. He can dribble the ball. He has a very smooth, tight handle. Doesn't turn it over that much. Super smooth, buttery, silky, soft jumper. He is my favorite player by far in this draft. By far my favorite player in this draft. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching. I know this one was very long-winded. I'm going to leave timestamps down below just so I can, you guys can skip along to whatever you guys want to watch. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching, and I didn't upload last week, but here I am, right before the draft. I'll post more draft content. See you guys later.